Is your own body a mystery to you? Do you wish that you could have a better understanding of how your body functions or what's happening inside of you? But do you find that those terms of anatomy and physiology are daunting and overwhelming? Welcome to Wonderfully Made, where the mystery of your body is revealed. Trees and plants that grow by the riverside are evergreen if the river is good. Our complex human bodies are no different. They need a good supply, a good river for them to function. Good evening and welcome to Wonderfully Made, where the mystery of your body is revealed with me, Khomotso Mokgapi, right here on Life Destiny TV. Your life, your destiny. Today we'll be talking to you about blood. Your blood, the anatomy and the physiology. What is blood? What does it do? We all know it's important, but do we truly understand what it is, what it does, and what control we have over our own blood? You heard me right. You have control of what is in your blood. But you won't do anything about it unless you understand it. So let's take it from the beginning. What is blood? That red stuff that comes out of you, that stuff that is life. Blood is the river of your life. It feeds each and every part of your body, your organs. Hence we call it the river of life. It is made up of plasma. We're learning new language. And it's made up of elements. So what is in the plasma? Plasma is the liquid part of the blood. It has water in it, making it liquid. It has proteins in it. It has hormones. It has nutrients, the food. It has oxygen. And it also has waste material. That is what the liquid plasma aspect of blood has. And I said it is made of element. It has cells within it. This is the anatomy of the blood. What are the cells that are in the blood? We have white blood cells. We have red blood cells, which gives the blood its red color. We also have platelets. Now you have learned the anatomy of blood. So the next time you see a drop of blood, when you've cut yourself in the kitchen and you look at it, marvel at how all of that is in that one little drop. So what is the function of all these things? The blood is to feed your cell. Remember the cell? We discussed it in the previous week. The cell is the building block of the body. It does every function of the body, but it requires certain elements for it to live. What did we say it requires? It requires oxygen. We saw that that is in the blood. It requires food. That's nutrition in the blood. It also requires certain elements for it to function. What are these elements? I said it was oxygen. We saw that there's oxygen in the blood. It requires water, which is the big component of the blood, and it requires glucose, which is a nutrient, which is food, which is in the blood. So now, what is the function of blood? We've looked at its anatomy. We've looked at what it looks like. What is the function of blood? Blood primarily has three functions. It is to transport something. It's also your defense mechanism. That's right. And it also helps to maintain homeostasis. Another term that we learned last week, keeping the body's internal environment constant. So what does the blood transport? It transports whatever is in it. It transports food to different parts of the body. It transports oxygen. It transports the water. It transports the different hormones and the different proteins to the different parts of the body where they are needed to do their work. It also transports waste material away from the cells so that they can be eliminated from the body. And I mentioned that blood is responsible for defense. I bet you've never had that one before. Well, it transports the cells that are responsible for our defense. The white blood cells, which are part of the immune system. But we will be talking in detail about the immune system later on. As long as you remember that for your immune cells to get from one point to another, they need to be transported through the blood. It also transports platelets. What are platelets? You know when you cut yourself and you start to bleed and you watch yourself bleed, and after a little while your blood clots? That's the function of the platelets. So how is that a defense mechanism? The blood knows that if you cut yourself, there needs to come a point where you stop bleeding, otherwise you'll bleed out. So those are the two defense systems from the blood. And we also mentioned that blood is responsible for maintaining a constant internal environment. Homeostasis. What does it control? Temperature. Did you know that the temperature of blood is 38 degrees? 1 degree higher than your normal body temperature. So blood is responsible for keeping us warm as it flows through our system. Blood is also responsible for our pH, whether we are acidic or not. We need to keep the blood pH between 7.35 to 7.45. Write it down, as we will be discussing it on another day. And the third thing that blood is responsible in terms of homeostasis is maintaining the water content, because the majority of blood is water. So remember these three things. Blood is responsible for transport, for defense, and for keeping an internal environment constant. You never thought that much about blood, did you? Now, as we go on a water break, let's think about this, and when we come back, we shall be discussing this great river of our life in more detail. Welcome back to Wonderfully Made, where the mystery of your body is revealed, right here on Life Destiny TV. Your life, your destiny. We are talking about the river of life, your blood. Now that you know what is in your blood, you know what it does. It transports, it's responsible for defense, and it's responsible for keeping the internal environment. But I bet the question you're having is, you said blood is mostly made up of water, but when I cut myself, it's not water that comes out, it's a red liquid warm stuff. What gives blood its red color? There is a pigment called hemoglobin, which we'll be discussing in detail because it's important. Not only does it give blood its red color, but it's responsible for moving oxygen in our system. And our blood, as we've seen, is also sticky. It's not the consistency of water. And that's because of the proteins that are in the blood itself. And as I've mentioned before, because it's responsible for temperature, the temperature itself of blood is higher than that of the body. So as the blood moves through our body, it imparts that extra 1 degree to the rest of the body. Do you understand? The body's at 30, the temperature of the blood is 38, the temperature of the body is 37. So the blood, as it flows, it imparts its own temperature to the body, keeping us warm. Isn't that amazing and wonderful? And that's why we say you are wonderfully made. Now let's look at more detail at the red blood cell. The other cells that we've mentioned, the platelets, we know that they stop you from bleeding. The white blood cell, you have to tune in when we talk about the immune system. That's a topic on its own. Today I want to focus on the red blood cell. Why is that important? Do you suffer from anemia? Have you heard what anemia is? A lot of women suffer from this condition. If you can understand the red blood cell and you can understand hemoglobin, then you can understand how you can use the 8 laws of health, remember those, to make sure that your blood and this red blood cell has enough oxygen to move through your system. Okay, maybe I've moved on a bit too fast. So let's come back. Within your blood, with all these other things that we've mentioned you have, there is a cell that is called a red blood cell. The cell is what gives the blood its color. What is the function of a red blood cell? It is to transport oxygen. Where is it taking the oxygen? To every single part of your body, to your brain, to your kidneys, to your muscles, everywhere, because we cannot live without oxygen. So once we've breathed in the oxygen and it goes into our respiratory system, as in into our lungs, then the oxygen gets onto the red blood cell or into the red blood cell. It's almost like getting into a car, and then it moves around. And when it arrives, let's say at the kidney oxygen gets given to the kidney, and then the carbon dioxide is exchanged and comes into the red blood cell, and it takes it back to the lung where the carbon dioxide is taken out. A perfect transport system, moving oxygen around. But within the red blood cell is what we call hemoglobin. Write it down, an important one, because when you speak to your doctor, you can actually go and ask, "Doctor, I would like to know what my hemoglobin is." But what exactly will you be asking your doctor? You will not be asking how many red blood cells you have. No, you have trillions of those in a single drop of blood. What you will be asking your doctor is, "I want to know the things that are inside the red blood cell." Hemoglobin is a protein. It is found inside a red blood cell. For every red blood cell, there are 4 hemoglobins that are within it. And on each hemoglobin, oxygen will then bind itself so that it moves. So 1 red blood cell, 4 hemoglobins, that means 4 oxygen are able to be carried in 1 red blood cell to be moved around to where it is needed. So why is this important? Well, hemoglobin gives blood its red color, as we've already said. So if you're looking pale, what is that saying to you? Maybe you don't have enough hemoglobin. So now, if you don't have enough hemoglobin, and your oxygen can only be transported being attached to hemoglobin, what will happen? Without enough hemoglobin, you cannot transport your oxygen to where it is needed. That is what one part of anemia is. Anemia is when a person is not able to transport the oxygen because there is either a lack of hemoglobin, so there's not enough of it, or there are not enough of the red blood cell. This is very important for you to understand. So the red blood cell is what gives the river of life its amazing color. But it not only gives the color, it also allows for oxygen to be moved, to be transported to the brain, to the kidney, to the liver, and to the muscle through this medium of blood with other elements that are also moving in there. Now, when we come back after the break, we're going to find out more about this red blood cell. Where does it come from? How is it made? And what else is it doing in our system? See you soon after this short break. Welcome back to Wonderfully Made, where the mystery of your body is revealed right here on Life Destiny TV. Your life, your destiny. The Good News Bible, Leviticus 17 verse 11 tells us, "The life of every living thing is in the blood." Have we not seen that to be true? The life is in the blood. Keep that in mind. Now, as we continue and we're looking at this red blood cell, what is it? Where does it come from? Where does it end up? The red blood cell is made in your bone marrow. Remember how initially I said all the systems are linked together? This is where it comes in, the musculoskeletal system, which has your bones. In your bone marrow, the red blood cell is made together. It requires elements to put it together. What does it require? It requires iron, and hence you know that if you lack iron, we tell you that you shall not have enough of hemoglobin. It requires vitamin Bs, and it requires proteins to make the cell in itself. Once the red blood cell has been made, before it is fully matured though, it is released into the bloodstream. The next time your doctor takes your blood for a full blood count, which is when we look at what is in your blood. Specifically, you can then look at these immature red blood cells that are in your blood. How many of them are there? And this you will see written as reticulocyte. Why is this important? It will tell you whether your bone marrow is able to make enough red blood cells that are necessary. Is it making enough? Is it making too little? Or is it making too many? Once they mature when they're in the blood, then they become full red blood cells. What's beautiful about the red blood cell is that it's not like any other cell. It has a specific shape. It has a specific size. Why is this important? The size of the red blood cell allows the hemoglobin to be inside. If the size is too small, it cannot have enough hemoglobin. If the size is too big, then we can also tell that something has gone wrong. And what about the shape? It's biconcave. And the reason this is important is that the red blood cell needs to be able to navigate itself through different pathways within the blood. If it's a tight little hole, the red blood cell needs to be able to move through it. And the shape as well allows for the volume of the red blood cell to be bigger, therefore increasing in essence the size of the red blood cell to accommodate the hemoglobin. These are the things that are important about the red blood cell. So when you look at your full blood count, you will see the reticulocytes. How many of them are there? You'll also be able to see the size, which is written as MCV, the size of your red blood cell. And this is information that you need to be able to understand when you're talking to your doctor, because then you will know what is going wrong with your own red blood cells. And why is it important again to know what is going on with your red blood cells? Because they are transporting something important, which is your oxygen to every single part of your body. Now, this red blood cell moves throughout the body and it lives for 120 days. And then it is old and it dies. Why is this important? Because you need to be making new red blood cells all the time. And for you to be able to make them, you need to have the right material. The right material, we said you need iron, which you will get from green leafy vegetables. As you watch more of our shows on health, you will learn to understand which foods give you iron, which is an essential part of a red blood cell. You will also understand as they die, and especially for women, as we lose blood, that you need more of the elements to be able to make more of the red blood cells. A lot of women suffer from anemia simply because they are not providing their bodies with enough of the elements required to make this red blood cell. Do you remember our 8 laws of health? Nutrition, exercise, water? All of these are also important for the red blood cell. We've discussed why they're important in terms of nutrition. Also in terms of exercise. Exercise means you require more oxygen. Have you ever seen an anemic person walking or trying to exercise? Soon afterwards, they run out of breath. Why? Because they are not able to meet the demands of oxygen in their body, which is why it's important to ensure that you know what your full blood count is like. Do you know? Maybe it is time you schedule an appointment with your doctor so that you can go and learn about this. I hope all of this is making sense to you and it's not scaring you too much. If you do have your results in the cupboard, quickly run and have a look at them so that as we continue talking about the River of Life, you can now make it personal and applicable to you. See you in a little while. Welcome back to Wonderfully Made, where the mystery of your body is revealed, right here on Life Destiny TV. Your life, your destiny. If you've just joined us, today we've been talking about the river of life, which is your blood, what it does, which is transportation, defense, and maintaining an internal environment. But we've mostly been focusing on the red blood cell, the one that gives blood its red color, the one that allows oxygen to be transported from the lungs to every single cell in our bodies. Isn't it amazing just how the body is built? How wonderfully made you are. And isn't it amazing to realize that there is something that you can do? What can you do about what we've just talked about today? Well, we know that because the red blood cell is made in your bone marrows, it's important for you to supply your body with the things that you need to make your red blood cell. I briefly mentioned some of them, such as iron and vitamin Bs, but you also need copper and zinc. How will you know what these things are and how to find them? Yours is not to worry. Yours is to eat a variety of fruits and vegetables, especially your green leafy vegetables. And those will allow your body to be able to make the red blood cell specifically, so that you can have enough oxygen to be transported to different parts of your body. Now, some of you might be asking, but the blood, what part of the system is that? Because in the first episode, we discussed the different levels of organization. We look at it as part of the circulatory system because it doesn't work on its own. It works with the heart. The heart is responsible for the blood moving throughout your entire body as it works as a pump. But the blood also needs something to move in. So those are the blood vessels. These are the things that we'll be looking at in the following week. But we see that all the systems are linked together because from the heart through the different blood vessels, the red blood cell, the platelet, the white blood cell moves in the blood to the different parts. Let's look at other parts of the blood and what it does when it maintains a constant environment. We've also introduced you to the 8 laws of health and how each law affects a system of our body. Now, how do these 8 laws of health affect the blood and how do they relate especially with the red blood cell? We've already spoken about nutrition impacting the red blood cell. We've spoken about exercise. Exercise increases the demand for oxygen, meaning it will increase a demand for the red blood cell. So it's important that you have enough of the red blood cells, but it also stimulates circulation of the blood, helping the blood move along faster. Water is important as it forms the biggest component of the blood. So without enough water, your blood will be thicker. Now let's especially look at the concept of air, because we said the red blood cell carries oxygen. When you sleep at night, are your windows opened or closed? If they're closed, it means for the 8 hours that you're sleeping, there's no oxygen that you're getting. If you're sharing a room with other people, the oxygen concentration reduces. It is why sometimes some people wake up in the morning feeling sluggish and tired instead of refreshed. Consider having a window open, or look if your house has an air brick. If you're building a new house, have air bricks to allow oxygen to be coming into your house. At your office, if you work in buildings where they are closed and there isn't any oxygen coming in, take an oxygen break. That's right. Go outside and inhale the air. If you work in the city and live in the city, you just might have to make a place where there are lots of plants to clean the air so you can have enough oxygen. If you see yourself looking pale, or you're feeling tired regularly, or you get dizzy, especially when you exercise, consider seeing your doctor to see if you have enough red blood cells, if you have enough hemoglobin, because as we said, the life is in the blood. I hope that you've learned a lot today about your own blood, and I hope that you will remember the things that you can do to improve the river of your life, specifically the red blood cell, which is responsible for carrying oxygen, by eating the right kind of food that has iron, zinc, copper, and vitamin Bs. If you have any questions regarding to today's topic, you can interact with us on Facebook at Wonderfully Made or on Twitter, #Wonderfully Made. We're really looking forward to answering your questions and giving you more information on the river of your blood, because as we said, the life is in the blood. Join us again next week as we continue, because we learned that this is not the end of the river of life. Next week, we'll be looking at the heart and the blood vessels that allow the blood to move. Until then, from me, Khomatso Mokgapi, good night.